do ask questions as I work. I'm quite happy to, but remember I'm deaf. First of all, I'm going to make a very simple bowl with the intention of making it reasonably thin and fluting it at a later stage. Now, I mentioned about the clay being water absorbent. I've developed the technique of throwing with a sponge, which is a tapered end sponge, in my right hand, so that I'm constantly feeding the surface with a minimum amount of water and a lubricant. If I don't, it's all too easy, especially when it's thin, to find that the clay dries suddenly, catches on your dry finger and wrenches itself slightly off center. By having a thin piece of sponge, I can feel the pot. You see, potted here through the sponge, which I couldn't do if it was a great thick water sponge. You see, you can't really feel, it hasn't got sensibility left. So you do need something tapered like that, which feeds the water to the clay surface, but allows you to feel through the sponge to the clay and its wall thickness. By the way, something you would be advised to do when you get used to this sort of throwing, you'll notice that I am bending down like this, trying to assess the shape of the pot with my head upside down, which is not the best way. I would suggest you have a mirror here. You have a mirror. If you put up a mirror there, you can be looking into that mirror and you can be looking at the profile you're making without getting backache. This is going to be a fluted bowl, and if you look at the bowl at the moment, there's certain ridges on it, ribbing as we call it. Now, for a fluted bowl, I don't think you want that there, because quite obviously, you've got ridges all over it. You're going to put fluting down. You're going to have lines going across due to the ribbing, and lines coming down due to the fluting, and I think in general this produces a sort of contradiction of the effect. So I generally rub out that fluting at this stage. And again, if I haven't succeeded in rubbing it out completely at this stage, I turn it on.
When do you do the fluting? When do you do the fluting?
I do the fluting after the turn. Now this is coming off the wheel in a minute. It goes off somewhere to be dried as evenly as possible. And when it's leather hard, before the rim goes white and brittle hard, you have to catch it right. Sometimes I have to put the sponge around the rim to hold it back while the push is still drying out. Then I put it upside down on the wheel head and turn the surplus clay away and really at the same time refine the shape. This, when it's finished, will have a much smaller foot and a greater elegance because it's got a smaller foot. And I've changed the shape just a little bit. And then after that, it's ready for fluting.
Someone said you're left-handed. Is that true? Are you left-handed?
No.
You're not.
No.
You're right-handed.
Right-handed.
Okay.
Are you left-handed?
No.
Anybody left-handed? You prefer to turn the wheel the other way? Well, then you do all the other things, back and forth. What do you do? Can you turn these wheels to go the other way?
Not the brain.
Some you can.
Yes, you can.
It has a reverse position, doesn't it?
Yes.
Well, then you work on this side, right? You don't want to try and become right-handed. Now I left that with the foot that thick in the middle. I wanted to have a fairly deep foot. I want the bow to be elegant, small-footed, but lifted up. Raised somewhat. To avoid making too obvious ribs on the side, instead of using my fingertips, I think most people when they're bringing clay up, and this applies to stoneware as well as to porcelain, probably using their fingertips. If you use your fingertips, you tend to leave behind, as I'm doing now, a ribbing, a spiral ribbon. Now, since this is going to be, again, another fluted bowl of a slightly different shape, I don't want it, I change the fingertips of the right hand to that. So that I'm using the side of my finger. It doesn't leave, ribs. Sometimes it's a bit of a nuisance to turn up those ribs at the turning stage and make a piece hard fit.
explain what makes a very functional spout while you're doing it? This is the spout. Can you explain what makes a very functional spout?
See this? Yes.
Functional spout? Can you tell us what you do to make it very functional?
Makes it work horrible.
Why does it work well, and how do you do it?
The spout.
Yeah. Make it pour well.
Yeah. Well,
Doesn't drip.
I have to confess, I don't guarantee that all my teapots pour better. Try hard. And I'll tell you.
Oh, no. Thanks. Rob.
Do you ever turn the tips of your spouts? Do you ever turn the tips of the spouts ever? Yeah,
I'll tell you when I'm doing it later. This is what somebody was asking about.
Yeah. I do that a
I
lot.
told you I do it to the bigger piece.
Do you think it tires the clay when it's porcelain doing that?
Mama did.
Yeah, it's like this. Yeah, I think it's hard.
You are.
Do you always use...
This is a nice wheel, good control, but I like one that you really absolute control with the foot pedal.
No, I'm very, very sloppy. David, what's that tool called? Call? Call. What's the name?
Cheese cutter. No?
Call it a frogwa. A frogwa. You made it? No problem.
Now, this is something that you might not like to watch for a moment. question is, do I lift that off the wheel? Or do I take the bat off the wheel? Okay.
Take the
In this
back.
case, I'll take the bat off the wheel. Because it may, I'll probably get it off all right, but probably be better leave it on that bat and then take that bat now. I've got to take all these pots and put them somewhere to dry quick. I don't know whether the lap's down
Yeah,
the
we
bottom.
got it set up.
You know where it'd be good is the kiln room.
We got lamps down there.
Okay.
But lamps don't...
Yeah.
Now, this is one of my things. It's fluting. So, those of you who are interested, I have to take a watch a bit carefully. This is this tool, which is simply a hacksaw blade, broken off, and ground one way, that is, you know, a bevel that way, not ground on that side, only this side. And you do it simply by putting it on a revolving carburetor wheel. You usually have a coarse and a fine stone on such a wheel, and you just grind it to a sort of 45-degree angle. Well, okay? And that's it.
You got good karma, that's it.
Terrific.
Okay. Hello. We failed. Tomorrow. Yeah. Tomorrow is the 5th. If for my yellow, what? We would have won if we had another ticket. You're cruel, Phil. He is cruel.
Sitting on my knee like this, comfortable position. Then the tool is held part of the arc relative to the pot. It's going on to the pot, isn't it? Because you see, I'm making this, my elbow is stuck in there, rigid, and I'm making an arc. That helps to steady the actual cutting. It's not quite so loose and freehand, it's sort of quite rigid. Right. And that gives the, what can I call it, the tension into the line. If it was too freehand, that line would be rather wobbly. If you want to get it, as I do, rather tight and exact, then that's the way I do it. So, well, you get a situation where you've got a bowl which has got a curve in it, you know, as you make it, and then that similar curve on a different plane, if you understand me, is being described as part of the fluting. So you get a relationship of curves, curve of the bowl and the curve of the decoration. Also, and this is something that was not premeditated, happened, you get a little extra pattern forming here at the top, rather like a saw edge, which just comes naturally because that is the angle at which the tool is put in, you see. You're describing that each time, and it makes that additional thing. Now, from my point of view, I find that what you're doing is you've got a major decorative effect, which is the main fluting, and a little kind of subsidiary effect, which is like the subsidiary tune in a piece of music, you know, just a little bit on the side. And since these things have a preconceived design, but it is a design that is coming out of the very process, the very tool, they use the tool, the material, the conditions of the material. And in a way, that kind of design making is, from my point of view, more to be trusted than a rather intellectual imagination applied to a process. I wonder if you understand me. It's the sort of thing you discover, you know, as you do it, rather than premeditate. I'm doing 3 or 4 strokes. Now the first stroke is the major one and the deepest one. You're cutting with the vertical edge. The bevel that you ground is on the back of the movement. You see, it cuts better, that vertical. If I turn that tool round and try to do it that way, because it's beveled there, it would ride the clay rather than cut the clay. It's a slow process. one stroke and not trying to make that come right up to that edge with those extra strokes. You know, it's entirely a personal preference. You can't say one is right and another one is wrong. Slightly differently, is an alternative method of fluting. I'm not too concerned that these intervals are exactly the same. Last thing to do is seal. That's a seal made out of porcelain clay, carved in reverse, biscuit fired to about cone 05,000 degrees. And that is dry, and that's the end of it, except that when it's biscuit fired, I will glaze it probably with a celadon glaze. I have several celadon glazes, various, and I will use one of them to glaze that with. So that's just a little bit on the fluting process. Certain surfaces hold a pot better than others. Aluminum wheel heads.
What about plaster? That.
I don't like using plaster that or the tendency is to get some residual clay.
What about plastic?
I don't plaster.
Plastic.
It's not really good. You want some fullness. I don't know how to get it out of my still. It works. Now, this teapot, you know, I make functional teapots. I want them to work. I don't want them to be terribly heavy. Now, this was thrown a bit heavy. I've got to take quite a bit of clay off it to make it lighter, satisfied. Means I've got to be a little bit careful that I don't go through something. For this teapot shouldn't be very much smaller than that, otherwise you're going to get instability. Doing very well today. Can't get this thing. Do use clay round base. See if I can lift it out this time. Because as you can see, it's adhering to the surface of the wheel by quite a like this, I do a lot of turning. Partly to get precision on the shape, partly to make it lighter.
working with stoneware, would you call it cheating?
Would I?
Call it cheating to make the
No,
shape
no,
by trimming
no.
rather than on the wheel?
I haven't got what I call purist idea. You know, to also get it all done in the time, the kind of mean, not really. I can see why people have ideas like that. I think it's more theory than practice.
plan to put that right by the hole, or don't you care?
Hole, I put
I mean, top hole,
next thing.
right next.
Tell you where it is.
Oh.
leaves a ring, I wet it, and then I drill the appropriate hole, depending on the kind of trying to see or what a tea that you drink. If you drink that kind of sutra, you can afford to have big holes. If you drink Darjeeling or Pico chips or whatever it is, you probably find it makes much difference what kind of a hole you have, because it's so powdery it all goes through anyway. But mostly we do make holes. Now how many? You want enough area in those holes. See if anything in excess of the total area of the size of the hole at the end of the spout. So you can increase the number like this. Usually about that size hole. I don't like this too much. Great big holes about the size of a finger. People hopefully think people forgetting why they're putting it there. Really. Of course, it's meant to be a strainer. Is a tea leaf. So you see, in making a teapot like this, there's an awful lot of functional consideration. Even if a silver teapot is $100 or more dollars, and therefore nobody really
David?
all part of the illogical system by which we function.
Why don't you put holes at the bottom? All the way to the bottom.
Yes?
Yeah.
You tell me.
Well, because they won't go anywhere.
They're blocked. See? They're blocked. So although you have a total area there, this part is so close to the top by the time you press it all in, it really only holds in the upper half of that hole, that's up here, really obvious. Right, now then, on to that. Somebody kindly look to see if anything is drying too much under the lamp. So, anything to do with the pouring yet. How we try to make it pour. Now, in firing, especially in all vitrified pots, stoneware or porcelain, but more in porcelain than stoneware, the spark twists this way. Okay? Now, it doesn't unwind. It goes on winding. This spout was thrown revolving like this, wasn't it? With the wheel going around that way. Now I was exerting the pressure on it, which is a torsion, going in the opposite direction. I was exerting a pressure on the turning clay against the revolution, right? So clay is really, has been twisted like this. In that spout, the clay has been twisted down, okay? Now you would think that in the vitrification it would go back, but it goes on twisting. Hence, when I cut the top of the spout, I cut it down so that in the vitrification it will come up. So it's right hand down. Okay? Now, how much? That's totally a matter of experience. The higher the temperature, the more the twist. The longer the spout, the more the twist. The thinner the spout, the more the twist. Okay? So, three considerations to think of when you're actually deciding how much angle you will allow so that it comes up to the glass. Now, we're still not got to what they call the pouring point. You have a thick end there. That isn't going to pour. As you all know, if you pour water from the kettle, it pours perfectly well and the jet is cut off in the kettle. Not so teapot, because this is always too thick. Now, I'm cutting it away now. But how much? I cut it away too much, I get thin end like a kettle, which is all right in metal, and no good in clay. It's chips. So there's a limit to the thinness that you can have at the end of the spout. But I am thinning it down now to what I think is a safe limit, and getting nearer a point where it will pour. But the most important thing is really what I do to the end of the spout. I keep it soft, and I'm now going to tip it down using this tool and pressing a little on the end of the spout and thinning it out finally a little more and tipping it slightly over. See? Now, in theory, that should fall. Depends, it would be on what thickness of glaze remains on the end of that spout. Now, visually, that spout is okay by me, but if that had to be tipped over a lot more, I wouldn't have liked it. I would have found it visually objectionable. Okay? So that's as much as I do to the spout. Just in passing, I don't know whether any of you in your experience have come across a teapot, a commercial teapot, it's got a little tiny hole just there. This is mostly done in teapots made on the continent, in England, or in Europe, or possibly in the States. And it's a nice theory, and this is the theory, that if you have a hole just there, a small hole, you're pouring your tea. When the cup is full, the teapot comes back, and the tea that was going into the cup rushes back into the teapot. If there is a little drop that's gone over that edge that would run down the teapot, the capillary action of the little drop whistles it up through the hole and down to the teapot, so it doesn't drip.
Wonderful idea. It works one time in 100. And less than one time in 100 if it's made by a hand potter. I think it really is one of these things that probably only works under conditions of precision exercised by industry, you know. But I have seen teapots like this. I haven't come across very many that really seem to work. And of course, with all spouts, whatever you do, you give it a chip on the end, it won't fall anyway. Teapot's not quite finished. I have to put two lugs, one there, and it's going to have a cane handle between those. So I'm going to just make those lugs, which are, I told you I was, at home I would make them in a press mold. But here I'm going to model it. The shape marks the top to the one grey. Now, out of that piece of clay, I make two lugs. Note they're cut at an angle to fit the shoulder. Now, I model them a little more. Model on, very carefully sealed on at the points of join. See that teapots made like this have quite a lot of work. You know, just rubber bits which you put together. But these teapots, despite what Bill was telling us this morning, that you could get $100 or $200, and it is a functional thing at the end of the day, and functional pots do not command prices equivalent to non-functional pots. Anything that's decorative in license or let's see, you get a better price than anything that's plastic. Anything to do with the kitchen or the dining table drops the price. Anything that goes into the special alcove in the sitting room or whatever, or the table beside the bed, flowers or whatever, that will command a higher price. That might make a difference in the kind of pots you decide to make for production.
Do you think of the people who will be using the pots when you make them?
Do I think of the people?
Who might be buying the pots?
No. Not unless they are, if you give me an order for that teapot, and we've had a conversation about nice things about the teapot, then I would remember that, hopefully, when I go home to make the teapot, and would remember, you know, like certain aspects of it. But that's because I have a personal connection with you. But if I'm making pots in general, and I don't know who's going to be using them, and I don't know what their personal preferences are, Oh, that's the sort of thing I'm thinking about. I could say that this is a form, which is a roundish form, but it's articulated by angles, 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 angles. All right? A number of angles go into the form conception and hold the whole thing together in sort of unity, integration. So that's a kind of simple thing. Run it off. A little bit thick, so you add a little water. This is pretty thin. There you are. No more than that. That's a little bit shallow there. Okay. Then with the drops that are on your finger, or afterwards, that will dry a little more slowly than the other one, because the clay is thinner, the porosity is less, and it may take just a little longer to dry.
David, do you sponge your pieces off when you're doing a whole bunch of glazing? Or?
So if I'm organized, I'm doing a lot of glazing, and all the same glaze, I would have wax. Either dip the foot in the wax, in a shallow pan, keeping the wax.
I mean to clean the piece?
To clean, well, then no, that's the wax to stop the glaze from sticking to the foot.
Right, but I mean, if your pieces have been sitting out and they get a little bit of dust on them, do you usually sponge it off or just wipe it off with your hand? Or
Dust?
Yeah.
Prior to glazing.
Yeah.
I just brush it off, blow it off and brush it off. I usually have a brush.
So it's not to your advantage to get a piece a little moist before you glaze it?
That's a good point. There are some glazes that are better if they are the rim of a bow like that, for instance. I just run a sponge around the rim, just to take away the tendency for the glaze to go a little pinhole all around the edge, and there are little places where the glaze isn't quite sticking, and you have to then rub it around. You notice that one's not dry. That's simply because it's thin. Now if we put that on the kiln now, I think, let's just put it up. Wants to be dusted, especially because the comb has gone through the clay and the little granular bits are liable to be there. Although I didn't do it, this is the glaze that at home I would sponge the rim very lightly, just round the rim, to take away that dustiness that sometimes causes little bits on the edge where the glaze isn't sticking. Now the assumption, and less of the translucent. expect you're wondering about the holes. You know, I put a lot of holes through there. Now, I do one of two things. I either wax it, just that area with wax. Mostly, I glaze it and then put the holes out with a little piece of wire that's about the right diameter of the hole. Push all the glaze out. That's what I do. Get the crumbs in there. Don't think I did. It's a very simple composition, but it's just a fine material. It's 50% methylene cyanide and 50% an iron-bearing ball plate, not any iron. This iron-bearing ball plate is high in alumina, 6 or 7% of iron, and very low in calcium. Now, I don't know anywhere in the States you can find it. I get it from Australia. It used to occur within a mile of where I live. We built a housing estate over the Cape, and I can't get it. Now, it's a 50-50 mixture, and this gives you a red glaze, a tomato red at cone 9, and an orange red at cone 10 or cone 10 plus. And you find it on some of these photographs. Now, I can't do that today, so I'm going to substitute the iron for that part of the decoration that I normally do with red glaze. The red glaze is applied to a slip trace. So it stands out rather like icing a cake, you know, a little dot. No good putting it on with a brush, it's too thick. You want the density that comes from the thickness of application of the slip trace. Right?
Gentleman's relish.
Sure, that's something they have in the pub lunch.
What's that?